Chelsea, you wanted to speak a little bit to sort of the inception of the GovAI Coalition, and then we'll kind of follow along.
Yeah, thank you. So as you can see on the slide, within 1 year of making the GovAI Coalition public in March of 2024, the coalition has expanded to over 700 local, state, and federal government agencies across the U.S. We have Canada. We have an agency or two in the UK, and over 2,000 members and growing. These numbers were as of December of last year, December 2024. And all we do is collaborate and share our experiences with AI, what we would like to use AI, what issues and concerns we have in our agencies, and how AI could actually help us. San Jose is the 13th largest city in the U.S., but we also, compared to other cities our size, we don't have a lot of staff compared to our population. We don't have a large budget, so when it comes to time and money, no government agencies really have that. So trying to find solutions that can help staff when we don't have enough staff to help us, when we need to stick to a 40-hour work week. So AI has been a solution that we have found that can save that time, that can save money, but AI is a buzzword, right? There's so many different parts to AI that can help city governments and government agencies in general. And it's hard for one agency to really understand everything about it and how to implement it into government and city services. So we worked with 9 other government agencies, including San Antonio, Texas, Colorado, San Diego, and we decided to bring people together. That's the baseline of it, is bring people together to promote responsible AI. And it really just kicked off from there. We brought our AI policies together to create a plug and play template, generative AI guidelines, even incident response plans when it comes to AI. And as government agencies, we realized that this coalition is only what we want to make of it. So we actually just restructured the whole coalition and came up with new committees, including a community engagement committee, just to see how we can tackle AI, enhance public engagement, and build public trust so we can actually implement AI into our agencies. And we release new resources and templates, updating them every year. We have a monthly newsletter covering new AI policies, governance, what the federal level is doing, state, and also just opinions from different government staff on how they're using it, what obstacles are coming, trying to overcome, and also how we're navigating pushback from leadership. So it's happening everywhere, but if we all work together, we can use AI responsibly.
So and years of being in this community, received more, bar none. And we went to the summit back in December, just that we recognize we were doing forces with the coalition, but that they created something called a mesh. Your AI policy, AI policies that we talk about. For governments who's going to go through them, we're going to design analysis and not make a decision and sit on it for 3 years, and then you miss 3 years of AI evolution, and then you're you're fine. And so what they did was create something called an AI fact sheet. We, I believe, were the first company that was vetted and approved by the coalition. We wanted to do that because we are partners. We are all partners in it. So change the word. It's not exclusive of the vendors, the entrepreneurs. We're all in this together. We need to curate and take care of this ecosystem as well. The AI sheet, and you can go to their website, see this, go to their website, and they have numerous AI policies, different size cities, that match up, you know. You get pushed out from people in their agency that are stuck in their ways and don't want them out open to municipalities, which we see a lot of risk. So it's an incredible resource. It's right there, and these people also are so accessible. Well, let's talk about templates and resources. That's a good segue. So Chelsea, you want to speak about that?
Yes, so all the templates and resources you see on the screen are everything that's accessible even before joining the GovAI Coalition. These are all accessed on the City of San Jose website, sanjoseca.gov/govai, and it's really a whole process. We try to make it as easy as possible for all agencies to create an AI policy and get started, starting with the starter guide. It lays out all of our resources, how you can use them, including links to YouTube videos, going through a tutorial of those AI policy templates, an AI governance handbook of how to really get started, and learning the lingo of AI, because anyone can utilize AI. Anyone can. At first, smartphones were a new idea. People didn't know how to use them, and now we can't live without them. That's where AI is going and where AI already is. So having that AI governance handbook, with AI, there's a lot of concerns around privacy, cybersecurity. We included an AI incident response plan, because if you're going to use something that has technology can go wrong, it could be hacked. So making sure you have a plan to make sure that your agency is going to be safe. We also have resources on quick AI assistance using custom ChatGPT models, which I'm sure you guys have heard about throughout the conference. We actually list out some that the coalition has already created, including a translation assistant that actually pulls from government-approved language translation pairs. So instead of using Google Translate, you can use our AI translation assistant with approved translations from government agencies, which goes into one aspect of the coalition is that we want to find ways to share data. We all have data. We all collect data on our residents. We want to protect that data, but we also want to be able to make our services better. And the only way we can do that, especially if we're looking at the same kind of technologies, is using and sharing our data to build those technologies so not only San Jose can use object detection and make our roads cleaner, but everyone across the US and around the world can keep their streets cleaner. We also have a vendor agreement. So as you start working with vendors like CityBot, they know all our resources. So when they see those vendor agreements, they see those AI fact sheets, it builds trust not only with the vendor, but the public, because it's full transparency. The AI fact sheet, what San Jose describes it as, is it's nutrition facts. Like, you buy food, you look at that nutrition fact label, you know exactly what you're putting into your body. Same thing with the AI fact sheet. As a vendor filling out that AI fact sheet, you're learning about everything about their technology, what data they're collecting, how data is used, how long that data may be stored for. So you can share that with the public and be like, hey, I know this is safe. I know this is going to be safe for the environment. I know your data is going to be safe, and you can all move forward together. And there's a lot more, including a AI contract hub. As we sign contracts with vendors, we want to be able to share those with our agencies as well to see, what other agencies are using. So that's also open to different agencies to look at.
What's the number one question?
We, as a government agency, exclusively own the data to see. Don't own the data, then you don't know how they're using the data, and that's not fair. Because sometimes the vendor response is squirrely, and that's not proper custodianship of data generated through AI models that relate to you all. It's like it's your data. And then I promise Nick, it's not just a very nice, dressed, good-looking showpiece on the stage. You already get to him in just a second. Joining, what is that process? How can people scan this QR code to become members?
So joining is as easy as filling out a Microsoft Word form. That's exactly what it is. As you join, there are options to join different committees. We have readiness and adoption. I really urge you guys to all join the community engagement working group. And you just fill it out. You'll receive an email. Do you know that the more committees you click to join, the more emails you will get? But all the emails that are being sent are manually sent via our personal Outlook emails. So there's not a lot of spam because we're emailing over 2,000 people, which means about 6 different emails being sent out from our little Outlook emails. So it's really easy to join. It's really a grassroots effort, and it's a lot of fun. If you join our first meeting, which is usually the last Wednesday of every month, you'll just see kind of the energy and passion that everyone has who are members of the coalition. It is free to join, so join today and access all these resources and join a community for responsible AI.
And it's the work that you do. That feeling of collaboration with somebody is a great feeling. Meetings. That's not what they're doing. It's like really high quality work. So we're going to come back and talk about the context of your role with the IT department here in just a moment. But without further ado, Nick, let's what y'all been through so far this year is pretty crazy. We'll talk about that a little bit. We have a great privilege of agency is arguably the most important agency in the state of California. It's incredible. We're going to get into that a little bit. There's a stage.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to stand because my back's killing me. All right, well, welcome. Thanks for having me. I wanted to put this chart up here to give you an idea of what 1 month looks like in our agency. So those are the numbers for January alone, right? So everybody knows about the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire. Those are 2 fires, right? We ran 53,000 emergencies in the month of January and over 330 fires. So when you start thinking about what each of your programs do, it's real easy to look at an agency like ours that has 12,500 people and say, well, they have a huge budget, they have lots of staffing, so it makes it much easier. But really, it's relatively the same for all of you, right? If you you're just as busy with your level of staffing. I've been in the department about 27 years, almost my entire career on the operational side as a firefighter, about 5 years in this job. And if you told me when I started out as a firefighter that I'd be talking to the IT department every day, I would say that would be a nightmare. But here I am, and I actually am really happy about it. And I think if you take nothing from this presentation on my part, other than if you are a communications program who is not meeting with your IT department on a weekly basis, you are failing yourself. Or you have an IT department that's not very functional. And that was our agency for a long time. And so we got a new director of technology about the same time I came into the program. And what we realized is that the communications folks can't solve a lot of the communications problems, and we have to leverage technology, and that's how our partnership started. I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talk about the advances that y'all been able to make because of failures in the organization, and you speak very improvement. So just maybe give them some context of what was going on when you showed up, and then how did your relationship with Scott, your IT director, how did that evolve?
Yeah, so in 2020, obviously there was a major fire siege going on. I came into the position and we had a website that was beginning to crash just because of the significant amount of traffic that was coming to the website. And what we quickly realized when I called him in the middle of the night and really didn't even know him that well, we said, we got a problem. And I don't know how to fix it because I'm not an IT person, but we need to figure it out. And so over the next, we were immediately able to fix the problem. But over the next several years, we really started with the basics and said, from a technology perspective, is what's on our website even what the public wants? What are they coming to see? What do the heat maps look like? What is the topics that they're coming? For our website, about 98% of the people that come to our website care about one thing, and that's emergency incidents. So to give you a perspective, from 2020, when our website was crashing, from January 7th to February 1st, we had 72 million hits to our website. So without it failing. And so we're able to look at that and see the data that's on there. But, we can sit back and pat ourselves on the back and say, wow, we had a lot of traffic. But what does that mean? Are we really hitting the right audiences? And that's really where Brad and I's relationship began, as well as other things from a technology perspective that we're doing. If you work in a small city, you probably know the demographics within the districts of each of your elected officials. But from my office in Sacramento, we can have an emergency in Siskiyou and we can have an emergency in San Diego, and the demographics are significantly different. The languages that are spoken, the household incomes, the things that each of those communities need for us to meet their needs. And what we quickly realized is most agencies, including ours, was rinse and repeat. You would go to an emergency, you would provide the same information, but you really weren't tailoring it to that community. So we also partnered with Esri, and so every time we have a fire, we get an automated look of where that fire's perimeter is, and then the demographics of that community, so we can see what are the languages spoken. And we put that on our website for everyone to see. And when we did that, Esri will give you a whole bunch of factors to look at. We took those, we ran them quickly by our legal office. We removed things like household incomes, but we wanted to know, what were the age of the homes that are built in those areas? How many people are home during the day? How many people don't have vehicles? How many people have access to Wi-Fi and so forth? So then we knew what languages we need to talk to them about. And that's great because, like every website, it'll convert into different languages, and we can print our fact sheets and things like that in different languages. But what happens when somebody comes to our website who doesn't speak English, doesn't speak Spanish, or calls our fire information line and that really they're going to talk to somebody in English and Spanish. What happens when they call for something else? We recognized we didn't have a way to effectively communicate with them. And so we started exploring partnerships with CityBot and what that would look like to be able to have somebody come to our incident page, be able to ask questions in all these different languages and get a response back, and then be able to look at a dashboard to see, is what is on our website really what the public wants, and what are we missing? Because we really don't know what they're searching for that they're not finding in all these different languages. So we're looking forward to launching that this week. We've been doing a ton of demos on that. But for us, language was a barrier, and we're trying to find a bridge to make sure that we're hitting all of those different communities in which we're serving.
And it all came from the strategic plan. Can you
Yeah. So how many of you have a strategic plan in your department? How many of you look at it routinely? That's about what it is in every department, right? Everybody talks about it, pumps it up, strategic strand, and then it goes on the shelf, right? And I think every agency, including ours, is somewhat guilty of that. So in 2024, we put a new strategic plan together, and each of the deputy directors at my level and all the programs are responsible for it. So we pay attention to it because our fire chief expects us to, and we have report outs on it. And so one of the things was enhancing our internal operations, and one of the operations was communications, both internally and externally. So when we started looking at those and the benchmarks and the action committees that are responsible for those strategic plans, one of the things we wanted to look at is how are we going to reach our communities beyond the English language? And that was how we started partnering. And I told Bratton, I get dozens of people trying to sell me stuff every single day, as many of you do. And quite frankly, I don't really have the time to meet with every single person, or the budget at times to focus on every topic. And so I took that strategic plan, we looked at it, we figured what are the benchmarks we can hit to meet our short and long-term objectives. And this is just one of many things that we're doing in the technology field, and I'll talk about it this afternoon in terms of things that we're doing from mapping, 3D mapping available, cameras that any of the public can look at, 1,200 different cameras throughout the state. So we're doing a lot of things to make it accessible for people to figure out what is happening, and the most important thing, timely, accurate, and authoritative.
AI is a means to an end. Came up with their plan. Equity-based communications was a critical. They're using AI as a means to the goal, and then they have a benchmark. And then what was your January like?
Not what I expected for sure. January was an extremely busy month for a lot of my friends in this room that I work with routinely. I think what happens when you get a fire in an area that has significant metropolitan impact, people are surprised, right? People are surprised. The community is surprised to see a fire burning homes down in January on the beach in Malibu. I hate to say it, we weren't, right? And a lot of fire agencies weren't. For us, we work closely with the National Weather Service, fire agencies, not just CAL FIRE, but local, state, and federal agencies. And we look at what the weather's doing days and days in advance. So for January, we had moved more than 50 engines into Southern California, in and around the LA basin, ahead of the start of any of those fires, because we knew the significant events that were going to occur. But what you don't expect is that kind of devastation that quickly. I mean, within 20 minutes, people are, the fire's burning down homes. Unfortunately, you can see there, there were 29 fatalities that occurred in both of those fires. But national, international media attention, the ability to run a 24-hour operation for days and days and days or weeks at a time. For us, it's all about relationships with our local government partners, with our law enforcement, with our elected officials. For myself, I spent pretty much 12 hours a day with the governor for 3 weeks, as he was actually down there when the fire started. 2 different presidential visits within the first couple weeks, all the politics. But I would say one of probably the most significant things we saw during the fires was a huge push of misinformation that was being, talked about constantly there. And what's interesting is how quickly a TikToker or a blogger can say something like, fire engines are out of fuel, right? There's no diesel, or they say gas, but there's no gas for fire engines, and they're just parked on the side of the road. And so how are you going to quickly respond to those types of things that are gaining momentum? And, you don't think like in a major fire, you're having to have staff put pictures of fire engines fueling up that says, no, we have fuel, we're fine, but beyond that, the recognition that community has such a long recovery and the devastation that happened to each of those people, right? Like, we're there, as agencies, local, state, and government agencies, but the real tragedy is all the people who lost their homes, who, we all get to go to our homes when we return.
People are very unique, and maybe I'm going to beat this like a dead horse, because just as a vendor coming to an organization, what you realize is you can't overgeneralize it, but these reality is what these departments don't know typically. Food enforcement or public works. They just don't know. These departments think they weird fantasy to have a UI conference specifically for public works directors. And you have to show up at the conference, take off your public works hat. You're closer to them than anyone else in your agency, typically. And then sometimes, we see it all the time when the IT department is running the RFP. But how many IT departments really understand the wants and needs of the residents? All do. So can we please let y'all make those decisions? But anyways, that never exists in my position. Understand. But it's unique. And then what Nick says is he speaks to Scott, his IT. How many of y'all have a close relationship with your IT department?
It's good.
Good. But so Chelsea, just talk a little bit about what do you do in communications for an IT department. It's just talk a little bit about part of that work is the coalition. But what is that like? You're sitting next to IT professionals. What is that like?
So, if you listened in on the opening keynote yesterday, the speaker really talked about, being a nerd. And so, in the best way possible, like, everyone in IT, we all really embrace being a nerd, as well as myself. We all have our favorite things to do, and what I didn't realize joining IT was that they're all very passionate, like everyone else in other departments, very passionate about helping their community. But what's also unique about the city of San Jose is that our 311 service is actually housed within the IT department. So while most IT departments in general are very internal, do not have a lot of ties with the community, San Jose's does. Our IT department is that first point of contact with our community for concerns about potholes and streetlight outages. Our main call center is on the IT floor, and we're disseminating information to all city departments that have public-facing services, which is where I came in. You can't really have a public-facing service, well, one of the largest public-facing services besides emergency services, and not have a communications manager. And then with emerging technologies and AI, San Jose really took off with it. And so besides working with 311 and overseeing public engagement for that, I now jumped into public engagement and outreach for artificial intelligence and building that trust with our community so we can use it and implement it into all of our city services.
Last May, and we had a contract on 3 months later, and so $4 million efficiencies that come from this relationship. So can you just speak to the importance of that?
Yeah, I think, for me, I'm not an IT expert at all. Don't ever claim to be. I just know what I like when I see it. So when I see something that I think ties into our strategic plan, I think is good for the public, being able to constantly have lunch, meet, partnership with our IT department, we're constantly looking at. I provide the vision, he provides the execution, I guess would be the best way to say that. And I like to give him grief, but he really is the person who is the brains behind the execution of a lot of the vision that I have. And what we're able to see by doing that is that we're forecasting ahead to ensure our budgets are solvent, moving money wherever we need to make things work. But probably the most important thing is we have support from our fire chief and we have support from the administration. So we're not running into situations where we're saying this would be really good to leverage information to the public, but we don't have the money for it or we don't have the support for it. And I think historically, and I can only speak for the fire service, I think a lot of times they think the answer is more people and more money solve everything. And that's not always the case. Now we're looking at how do we leverage the technology to minimize the additional staff we may need, maximize the efficiency of our employees, and utilize a balance of our employees, both uniform and non-uniform, because they each have an extreme value, but for our agency, they play different roles and each of them are key.
Thank you, man. How many people are in need?
So can you hear me? In my office, there's 30, and then we have 20 in the field. That includes a television producer, 6 television specialists, 3 graphic designers, information officers, a finance person or administrative, and various other positions.
Thank you, sir. Our 2 experts here, does anyone? We've got like 15, I feel like I'm like Josh yesterday. Okay, we got 16 minutes left. And so, okay, we've got enough time to do this. You guys are serving thousands of millions of people on your information. I'm wondering, how can this technology be applied to smaller agencies who are less limited on budget?
A couple things, and I don't work for CityBot, just so we're all clear. But I do think, like, for us, that is one thing that we're seeing, and when we talked about it, I'm probably a critic by heart, so don't tell me about it, prove it. And so I wanted to see, what are other agencies doing to use this technology? Because, like I mentioned in the beginning, 31 million people we serve, or the whole state actually, right? So that may be very different from somebody who's got a small city, but the people who speak different languages are still the same need, right? So if that's just one basic element of adding that to your website, I think is something that everybody should consider. That's something we're real excited about.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why San Jose started the GovAI Coalition, because it doesn't matter how many people you have live in your community, we have services that we're trying to provide, and our residents need access to them. And when it comes to AI, smaller agencies may not have the same resources as the 13th largest city in the U.S. So as we create resources or learn things, we can, package them up, send it to you guys, and kickstart your AI readiness policy and AI policies in general, so you can start using them in your agencies, protect your agency, and it really make your services more efficient.
And I would just say that, start with the biggest problem that you want to solve for, and just, we're not expensive technology just because we're associated with AI. Is not, we have annual contracts that are $5 and $6 and $7 a year. And it's based on population and expected amount of communications that we would receive based on the operation count. So I think my digital marketing director keeps telling me that I need to say that we're not an expensive product, which is true, because we're talking about big organizations, but we work with tons of cities that might be 5,000 to 10,000. Yeah.
Does you have to assign somebody in your agency to monitor?
So our approach as a vendor is we build it, we implement it here, and never relinquish responsibility of quality of product. We're trying to save your time and add more things to your list to do, which now own the responsibility of making sure your chatbot works appropriately. No one has time for that. So that's our approach. We build it, we implement it. Our head of customer service is a former Brew on. Like we launched, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can touch on that from an agency perspective. So we will have somebody in our agency that's an ancillary responsibility for them, that as the questions are coming in to that chatbot once a day, they'll take a glance at that to see what kind of questions are coming in, and to be able to look, is the question they're answering not being able, the chatbot doesn't know the answer for that. And then for us, we'll determine why that is. Is it because the information isn't on our website, is a one-off? And then our team will develop a response and determine, do we need to, as an example, if we have somebody who's asking some random question about, I don't know, fire extinguishers, right? And we see that it doesn't have an answer, that cues us in to go back to look at our website to say, do we need to add language about information about fire extinguishers? Or is it some obscure question that nobody's ever going to ask again? And that we'll be able to evaluate that over time to determine, is what on our website is what people are looking for. Did that answer it? I would say yes. One of the things that we did, a little bit off topic, but we created a weekly report. It's basically our weekly communication strategy for our agency. And by providing that to all of our elected officials on a weekly basis every Monday that shows everything that our communications program is doing, it cut our calls down probably by 90%. And I think for the type of calls that we get as a state agency into CAL FIRE, a majority of those can simply be answered by either looking at the website or asking the question to the bot.
Yeah. And one thing to add is AI won't never fully take over your job because you have to have that human behind it. So you can really think of AI as a very passionate intern. You can give them a lot of work. They're going to, that intern's going to do as much as possible to make sure you're happy, get the job done. But after they're done, you're still going to review it and make sure it's good to go and then push it out into the world.
I like that. Passionate intern. It's good.
We would increase their digital communication 5% to their rural works. That coincided, unfortunately, with a hiring freeze that the mayor put in place for the city, county of Denver because of the immigration crisis that they were experiencing. So the 311 in Denver, fully staffed, was 25 people. She was stuck at 16, and like she was from random. She's from Brooklyn. She's like, "You saved my keystone," and so they could relatively keep their 301 metrics in a reasonable, in terms of like they measure like call hold times and abandonment rates and that kind of stuff. So, and to what Doug's point is, it's not a replacement; it's an augmentation, and it's a way to help you get some of your time, which everyone in this room, I know for a fact.
And 20 years as a broadcast news journalist, I have a ton of questions around security and also the way I've been hired to. I just, so many red flags go up for me, especially with your name and what you do, what your company does. It seems like it would be such a target for hackers, an instant way to get to so many city governments and emergency organizations through you. How do you deal with that, and how are you staying ahead of that, and how can you guarantee that something really malicious couldn't happen for your company being embedded in so many important, critical websites like that?
Yeah, well, your assumption, I know where it comes from, but is very incorrect. So first of all, we only trade in publicly available content that is generated by the government. It's very important. So your website has publicly available information. That's what you can use if you've got other data sources that you want us to put in our knowledge base. We'll do that. You're the authorizer, but we'll never put any non-publicly available government content in our knowledge base. So we're answering questions relative to publicly available content, not connecting in any payment system. We're not getting access. Or whatever, we don't play in that space. We only answer questions relevant to the government agencies.
But if they have you, the answers start coming up as misinformation or something malicious.
Well, we just have our own internal, securitization safeguards in place. We're constantly testing, we use Amazon AWS without getting into too much details, but we're in a very secure environment. And again, it's just like no one's going to hack a chatbot because I'm not saying no one's able to do that, but it's just like you're only going to get information back that's information from the website. It's not like you're going to get information that is, something that they want to hold you in a relevant situation. Well, this is just more information.
I would encourage us to take this one offline. Yeah, no, and I have one question, please.
Responsibility of the government agency to make sure that the information on their website is accurate. That's not our responsibility. That is the responsibility of the government agency. You know, God bless them, but it's like we always get the questions. It's like, well, the clerk puts the agenda of a council meeting on Friday, and the minutes go up on Wednesday. And it's like they're always separate PDFs. I'm just like, no, just because you've been doing this 20, 30 years doesn't mean it's acceptable and approachable for residents to actually know what the next. Like, as an example, we've got a proposal in front of Denver to use our technology to answer the 600,000 311 calls they get per year. And then if we are unable to answer the question, which we're currently doing at a rate of 95% for Denver, then we can route those communities. They have 22 sub-call centers in Seacon and Denver. Based on the content, we can route the calls to a particular number and the way we can do it. That's why we do these integrations too, behind the scenes, we can route these communications into the technology system that your department's not using.
Yeah, so translation and interpretation has actually been a very hot topic in the coalition, to the point that we created a specific working group just to look at that and also build a use case that everyone can share. There's been a little bit more focus on translations, but there is the talks for interpretation, including, sign language as well, which is kind of a little bit of both. So we are really working together because we all need to be able to make sure all our communications are accessible. We're constantly, one great thing about the coalition, again, is we do have a use cases committee. So while we always get emails about, come check out my software, or let me do a demo for your agency, the coalition actually invites vendors to do a demo. And so whoever actually is interested can join the Zoom meeting and see a demo instead of having vendors contact you directly.
No, I think that's a topic that we are continuing to work on. And for us, when we look at, back to that strategic plan, like we're chunking it off one piece at a time. And one thing we found is when we're trying to do too much in two different directions, we struggle and never accomplish anything. So I'd love to talk to you afterwards about it, though.
And I think I just like to tell governments too, is like if there was a magic button to translate municipal speak into vernacular into all these languages, we don't be using it, right? And but we follow this technology. We're using a couple different translation solutions right now, and then with the voice side, then it gets into phonetics, which is super important. And treating the language with respect by pronunciation too. So there's all and stuff's moving in the marketplace to make that happen. So it's a really interesting track as well.
Yeah, and like as agencies pilot new technologies, we also share that in the translation working group. Like San Jose's been piloting Wordly. We also are piloting a different interpretation and translation. It's a little tablet that does both at the same time, instant language assistant. And we're sharing those and seeing how are they doing well, are they not doing well, how accurate are they, so we can all find the one that works best for your agent.